Welcome to the Citizens Oversight Committee meeting of September 24th, 2025. We'll call this meeting to order. And the first agenda item, sorry, wrong piece of paper.
Chair, we'll start with roll call, please.
Okay, thank you.
Member Hagerty,
Present.
Member Johnson, Member Larrabee, Member McCubbin,
Present.
Member Mann, Member Nachor,
Here.
Member Reyes Diaz,
Present.
Vice Chair Engdahl,
Here.
Chair Sheehan Meyer.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a little snafu in that we don't have the minutes made public at this time, so we'll push that to the next meeting.
We apologize for that oversight, Chair.
Of course, no worries. And I've seen it done before. Well, so we'll approve those and be delivered those before December 13th, which is ample time to take a look. We're looking for COC members' announcements. Does anybody have one? I have one, but go ahead. I see Jefferson, you want to tell us something, don't you?
Chair, can we get a motion to move those to the next agenda?
Oh. Sorry, can I get a motion to approve the
I move
Minutes
to
in
move them
December.
to the December meeting.
second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
I
Yes. I.
Thank you. Thank you, Samantha. You did roll. Oh, do we need roll call now too? No. Thank you, though. Okay, now we can go to member announcements, and Jefferson, please.
Yeah, try to keep it short. Well, I guess just my updates about a city council meeting over in Novato. It happened months ago at this point, over in June, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a vote just about securing bike lanes along Grant Avenue, Central Street in Novato. Looks like there was one council member who was kind of like the lone vote in favor of at least, wanting to go back to the table and consider having more bike lanes along Grant Avenue. So I guess just wanted to give a kind of sort of shout out or a kind of recognition of their support for cycling infrastructure in Novato. I think their name is Councilmember Rachel Farrick, if I have that pronounced correctly. While their position wasn't, objectively like a pro-smart, pro-smart one, it was still kind of in recognition that a lot of these like secondary and tertiary infrastructure systems are exactly in line with what SMART is trying to do and trying to get more folks to take the train. So yeah, like I said,
That's
some
awesome.
recognition for them.
Tom, do you have one?
No.
Okay. Emma? I have I neglected to change the agenda. We're going to do item 7 before item 6 in the interest of time. So I just wanted to make that announcement. I just have a COC member announcement that the Smart Initiative campaign kickoff will be on the 30th, next Tuesday at 4:30. There's a $50 donation ask, but not necessary. And so just to let you all know that. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on. General Manager's report.
Okay, good afternoon, Chair and members of the COC. I have 5 items today. I'll go over the ridership report. I just wanted to update the COC on the recent resolution of necessity, talk a little bit about Transit Month, talk about our pathway opening events, and then let you know about some recent awards we received. And then, of course, at the end, I'll open it up for questions. I will start with ridership. August ridership was 125,407. That was 27% higher than last year and was our 5th straight month over 100,000 riders, something we're obviously very proud of. Taking a look at our weekday ridership, August weekday ridership was 4,710. That was 39% over August of 24. And then September average weekday ridership to date is 4,762. And that's 30% over where we were in September of 2024. In addition to ridership, we also like to track passenger miles and see how SMART compares to other operators in the area. We do this by reviewing data from the National Transit Database. The latest information out there right now is in July, but as you can see, SMART may not carry the most riders, but we absolutely carry the most miles. And so in July, SMART carried 2.9 million passenger miles for the month, and that was 33% of the overall total in Marin and Sonoma counties, and was obviously the highest among Marin and Sonoma operators. Pathway use continues to be high. August pathway trips were 129,710, and that was 38% higher than August of 24. August Connect ridership also did well, 2,844 total riders. That was a new monthly record for both of our shuttles. I also wanted to make sure the COC was aware that the SMART Board of Directors approved a resolution of necessity on 9/17/25. This authorized staff to proceed with actions necessary to acquire pathway easements. The affected pathway sections are Lakeville to Payran Street, South Point Boulevard to Main Street, Golf Course Drive to Bellevue Avenue, and Airport Boulevard to Windsor. So the next steps are to proceed with quiet title action and file eminent domain for pathway easements in these sections. And again, you can see the map on the right that identifies each of these sections. I want to take a moment to remind the COC and the public about Transit Month. This month, we're thrilled to join transit riders, agency partners, and Seamless Bay Area in celebrating Transit Month. With over 60 exciting events taking place across the Bay, Transit Month is a great opportunity to build community and raise awareness about the important role public transit plays in keeping our communities and regional economy moving forward. I will be joining the General Manager's Ride-Along on Friday, September 26th. This event is open to the public, and people can learn more about all the planned events for the month at sftransitriders.org/Transit Month. Additionally, as part of Transit Month, yesterday was All Aboard Transit Day. 8 North Bay transit agencies teamed up for the first ever North Bay Transit Relay, aiming to find out if one person could ride every transit system in the North Bay in one day. Each rider completed a leg of the trip, passing the baton at connections throughout Marin and Sonoma counties. The baton, I brought it here, you can see it. Is used, the baton that we use is a genuine Golden Gate Bridge pylon used to divide bridge traffic for over 75 years before the movable median barrier was installed in 2015. The successful relay helped highlight transit agencies and the ease of connections throughout the North Bay. And you can watch the relay on SMART's Instagram story highlights. So if you have a chance, take a look at that. On behalf of SMART, I'd like to invite the public to join us in celebrating the opening of 2 new pathway segments. We'll be doing Petaluma to Pingrove on Saturday, October 4th. Start time will be 10:30 a.m. The start location will be the SMART Petaluma North Station. And then our end location will be the Pingrove Market Patio. And then the next day on Sunday, October 5th, we'll do Roanoke Park to Santa Rosa. The start time for that is again 10:30 a.m. Start location will be the Roanoke Park Station, and our end location will be Andy Lopez Unity Park. So if you get a chance, please come out and join us. I'm thrilled to report that SMART has received a couple of recent awards. To start, SMART was awarded the Bike Infrastructure Project of the Year by Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition for the newly completed pathway segments in Sonoma County. This was a fantastic event. Chair Corsi and Director Fleming attended, along with Joanne Parker, Bill Gamlin, and myself. We are absolutely honored to receive this award and want to say thank you to the Sonoma County Bicycle Coalition. Furthermore, SMART's Windsor Extension Project has been selected to receive the 2025 Outstanding Transportation Project Award from the American Society of Civil Engineers San Francisco chapter. The award will be presented at the October 3rd annual meeting and awards dinner in San Francisco. This prestigious recognition underscores the planning, engineering, and teamwork that went into extending SMART service north to Windsor. The project reflects years of collaboration among SMART staff, contractors, local agencies, and community partners, all really working together to deliver a vital piece of regional infrastructure. SMART is proud of the Windsor Extension Project team and grateful to the many partners who helped bring this project to life. The award celebrates the technical achievements of the project and highlights its importance in expanding sustainable transportation in the North Bay. This is a huge achievement, and if you would, please join me in a round of applause for SMART's engineering team. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions the COC may have.
Just want to add that Friends of Smart actually did a tour. We were the only event in the North Bay where we went from Windsor to Larkspur to San Francisco Ferry, and then over to Treasure Island for another tour and then returned. So we represented.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any questions? I think everybody's paying attention.
Great.
Good, right?
Yeah.
All right, moving down the public comment on non-agenda items. Do we have anybody in the audience who would like to speak or in-house that would like to speak? I see one hand raised.
First up for public comment, Bruce Hagan.
Hey, Bruce. Hi, Bruce.
Hello, everybody. Haven't been on Zoom for a while, so everything working for you on your end?
Good audio. We can hear you just fine. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm Bruce Hagan, and I am the co-founder and a volunteer for a group called Safe Streets Petaluma. We're about 3 years old. We have about 800 people on our mailing list, and we've been active in helping the city go forward with their plans for active transportation. One of our high priority items that bears on your mission with SMART is we call it the water gap. It's between Water Street and the Lakeville Highway, and you're all familiar with this, I think, at this point. It's a very short stretch, but it's a key link between the SMART pathway and our Lynch Creek Crosstown Connector, which is basically a bike and pedestrian-friendly route all the way across town. So the city has made a request for this. It's a priority. They've applied for SCTA funding, and it's in the city's adopted capital improvements program. And I have had many a time to come down the wonderful SMART Trail. I use it probably about 2 or 3 times a month, and have to make a hard right turn and go out to Petaluma Boulevard and then make a hard left turn to get back on to the Lynch Creek Trail. So I just wanted to let you know that us folks in Petaluma would really like to see this made a priority. If the way could be cleared for it, we'll be your willing and able partners. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you, Bruce. Do we have anybody else in the house? Okay, see none. Let's go to Miss Emily, Marin Sonoma Coordinated Transit Surface Plan. The relay.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon, COC, Emily Betts, Planning Manager. So I'm pleased to be presenting the recommendations from the Mascot study to you. Are you able to hear me? Is the audio okay? Okay, great. So we brought this to you, we brought the initial existing conditions and findings to you sometime last year. And we presented these recommendations to the board, the SMART Board of Directors, in July. So you may have seen that. You may be somewhat familiar with this project. Certainly the recommendations have been floating around for a while, and there's been an outreach period underway for the past 2 months. But because we haven't had a meeting in a while, I wanted to make sure that you had a formal opportunity to hear the recommendations and to provide comments. So this is a multi-jurisdictional effort. And as you'll see in the PowerPoint, I'm not going to go into very lengthy detail at the recommendations for each agency, but there are recommendations for all agencies, not just SMART, included here. So partners on the project included SMART, Golden Gate, MTC, TAM, SCTCA, Sonoma County Transit, Santa Rosa City Bus, Marin Transit, and Petaluma Transit. So we've had a lot of partners at the table, and it's, in addition to resulting in recommendations to take place in the next year, it's also helped solidify ongoing partnerships between the agencies. Okay. So what is MASCOTS? MASCOTS stands for Marin Sonoma Coordinated Transit Service Plan. And this is a collaborative and comprehensive analysis of transit services in the Highway 101 corridor. You have to forgive me as I flip through these extensive notes I was given. So there were 3 goals of this study. We wanted to analyze the system to say, what is the best use of existing resources if all of the infrastructure and resources were run by one agency? So really prioritizing efficiency and prioritizing best experience for the rider. The goals of the study are to grow ridership, improve service efficiency and legibility along the Highway 101 corridor. This is a study really focused on the Highway 1 corridor. In particular, it does touch on feeder system elements, but it's really not a comprehensive connectivity study. It's a study of the 101 corridor. And we really wanted to develop a plan, not just a study that was going to sit on the shelf. Here's where we are in the process. So we just wrapped up public outreach and we're approaching final adoption. The recommendations from most agencies have been confirmed. The Golden Gate and Marin Transit recommendations are still being finalized. And we expect all of them to go to our respective boards for adoption in October. So the consultants did a pretty extensive analysis of existing conditions, and I brought some of this to you when we discussed MASCOTS previously. But at a high level, they found that SMART has replaced Golden Gate as the predominant passenger trip choice for, Sonoma-Marin trips, and that Route 101 is therefore redundant for much of the day with SMART. They also found that Highway 101 in Southern Marin is overserved. There are too many bus routes carrying too few riders, which creates inefficiency and causes confusion. Of those people traveling into San Francisco, most, around 70%, are coming from south of San Rafael. So the demand for passengers, say, from Sonoma County or Novato to San Francisco is not as great. The key themes of the recommendations are first to reduce duplication, to have more frequency on fewer options, which helps rider understanding, the usability of the network, and optimizes our resources. To improve connections, improved frequency inherently creates easier connections because the time points are not as sensitive. And finally, to put service where the ridership potential is the greatest. So removing low ridership segments and then repurposing those resources into areas where ridership demand is higher. So this is the biggest recommendation to come out of the study, and that is to, as they put it, rationalize SMART and Golden Gate Route 101, to basically right-size them based on what we're seeing from the demand and the resources available. So currently they duplicate each other on Highway 101. The recommendation is to discontinue the 101 north of Novato, where the ridership is the weakest, and to invest those resources into SMART. So the SMART frequency will increase from 42 weekday trips to 48, and from 16 weekend trips to 24. And I have more detail on that later in the presentation. In Southern Marin, the recommendations are to improve the service by simplifying and reducing redundancy. I have the draft recommendations on the screen, but it's my understanding that these are under revision currently due to input they have received during the outreach process. Golden Gate's going to be releasing new recommendations on October 1st, and they're going to go to the Golden Gate Board for approval later in October. For the other local connecting transit agencies, the priority is to focus on where can those connections be improved to SMART. We've got a picture of the Route 20 up here because the Sonoma County Transit already this spring made the change to the Route 20, which comes from West County. Instead of bringing it into the Santa Rosa Transit Mall, they're now stopping at the Santa Rosa Downtown SMART Station before proceeding onto the Transit Mall. So there are several recommendations like this in the study, but this is the first to be implemented. In Sonoma County, it's recommended to consolidate the commute buses into one route for simplicity, serving Santa Rosa, Rohnert Park, and Petaluma. And the benefit of that is it's going to come more frequently, which, increases reliability and reduces the planning ahead. So this new combined route will utilize the new HOV lanes and will not make local pickups in San Francisco. The study found that these local pickups were slowing down the services quite a bit. There's also a recommendation to streamline the Golden Gate Route 580. Currently, the 580 sort of routes through some local neighborhoods in southern Marin, and it's no longer going to be doing that. Okay. All right. So to summarize, there are 5 core recommendations. For SMART and Golden Gate Route 101, discontinue the 101 north of Novato, increase frequency between San Rafael and San Francisco. And that's a really important point. The Route 101 between south of San Rafael is going to be increasing to 30-minute frequency during the day and then 15-minute frequency at peak hour. And so that will greatly improve the connections at San Rafael Transit Center from SMART. The Southern Marin bus service will be streamlined. Local bus connections will be improved. Golden Gate commuter routes in Sonoma will be also streamlined, combined into a single route with improved frequency. And the Route 580 will also be given increased, basically, performance and travel time by cutting out the local service. So this is what you could call the vision for transit in the North Bay following the Mascot study. SMART is intended to be the primary north-south transit provider, with Golden Gate providing all-day express service from key ridership hubs within Marin County. Golden Gate provides peak hour commuter bus service, so one-seat ride continues from Sonoma County during peak hour. And the ferry then is the primary way to connect from SMART into the city, supplemented by the Route 101 at San Rafael Transit Center. The anticipated benefits of this are an easier to understand network. More frequency makes every line more useful and makes connections easier because the perfect schedule coordination is not needed. Improved regional connections with better SMART service, more usable and understandable service into San Francisco from highest demand areas. And the fares will not be impacted. If anything, trips will have a lower fare than they would on Golden Gate. So getting specifically into recommendations for SMART, on the weekday, we are planning to increase from 42 to 48 trips. That's a 14% increase in service. The span of service is going to be starting a little earlier and going later. So moving from 4:30 to 4 a.m. and then 10 p.m. to 11:15 p.m. This is going to create consistent 32 to 64-minute frequencies all day. It will mean that we have elimination of our midday service window, and we are going to be filling in some existing gaps in the schedule, midday gap, evening gap, and later evening service. We're planning a 50% increase on the weekends, a really big increase in service from 16 to 24 trips. And the span of service in the evening will be extended from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. And again, this is going to provide much more predictable and consistent service throughout the day on the weekends, which is something we hear a lot from people. The overall impacts of this plan as a whole for the North Bay are anticipated to be increased ridership, 18 to 15%, depending on the operator. Reinvesting service hours where higher demand exists and improved efficiency. It does not include any new major capital investments. And for the bus operators, it's revenue hour neutral. The SMART schedule changes will not be cost neutral. The estimated cost is $2.5 million. That's largely comprised of the staffing that's required for us to do a 19% service increase. I'm not going to go through this in detail. See, so here's our current timeline. As I said, We've just finishing wrapping up the outreach, though it's ongoing. This is part of it. But the recommendations for Golden Gate are being finalized based on the survey results, and they're planning on taking those to their board. So we would be implementing this in spring. We're looking at April of next year. And then it is anticipated to be a 3-year pilot. After 2 years, we would do a evaluation to determine whether we want to continue forward. And public outreach, yes, this is just ongoing. Hopefully you had a chance to see the survey. The website is live still, mascotsplan.org. And that's all I have on this. So I'm happy to answer questions.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Emily, thank you very much for that excellent presentation. Can you, you said that the additional cost to SMART would be $2.5 million. Where was that money coming from? I think you talked a little bit about it in your write-up, but.
So there's a lot of moving parts, but generally speaking, funding in the North Bay is allocated on a ridership and revenue hour basis. And so the reallocation of revenue hours and ridership away from the Golden Gate system to the SMART system is creating shifts in the funding formulas that are largely funding this. So there's also some funding coming from MTC.
Yes, there's a lot of partners in the funding here. So it'll be coming from Sonoma County Transit, MTC. SMART obviously has a financial component to it, as well as Golden Gate Transit and Marin Transit. But in order to close this gap and make this happen, everybody came to the table to fill that gap. So we're very appreciative of all the partners to come together. This isn't something SMART could have done on its own.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah.
Yep. That's the way.
So after many years, the third lane is going to be opened here pretty quick in the Navarro Narrows. How will that affect the traffic and the ridership of SMART?
That's a good question. I don't think we're going to see a decrease. What I can tell you is I received a couple of texts this morning of people telling me that they met new people on the train today because of the congestion, and people have decided to hop on the train. You know, not to overstate this, but I've said it before, when people ride the train once, they're sold. And so as people are getting out, riding the train, trying it out, I just don't anticipate people are going to go back to the cars. You know, that I'm very hopeful that the commute gets better. But at the end of the day, it still doesn't beat riding the train.
Oh, good. Andy?
Yeah, I'm curious, you mentioned the improved connections with the East Bay. Could you talk a little bit more specifically about that?
Yes, so the route connecting the East Bay is the 580. And currently the 580 gets off the highway at the end of the Richmond Bridge and goes through some local neighborhoods there on its way to San Rafael. And that segment is going to be rerouted back onto the highway. The 580 currently has very unpredictable on-time performance because of the extreme traffic conditions it's dealing with. And so this is an attempt to make it more consistent. And then based on the new schedule, which Golden Gate is currently developing, they are going to be better timing the Route 580 to the southbound SMART arrivals in San Rafael.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, so I am reviewing your proposal from every, like from 4:30 a.m. to 10 p.m., from 4 a.m. to 11:15 p.m. on weekdays with a 32 to 64 minute frequency. Will there be enough trains to cover all of this? Because from what I understand, you have 18 units at this time. So that means if you're running with all of them running, pretty much with a frequency of every 32 to 64, will there be enough, trains, spare trains, for example, if one of them breaks down?
So we're adding one more crew to the schedule. And yes, we will have enough trains to cover that crew addition.
Go ahead, Jefferson.
Right. So yeah, thank you for the presentation. I guess my question would be regarding just identifying or how the agencies are going about identifying, for example, which Marin transit routes would be best suited to connect to which smart stations. So I was wondering, I'm guessing perhaps those kind of candidate Marin Transit routes, they probably might be discussed sometime in October, I think you mentioned, or I guess I'm part of the question is also just wondering like which routes, if any, is Smart interested in like actually getting to the stations?
Well, I won't speak for Marin Transit, but I will say historically in Marin, the way Marin Transit has worked is that their buses are timed to the pulse at San Rafael. So it's basically been in relationship with Golden Gate Transit and connecting to Golden Gate. However, back to the vision of the study, as SMART becomes the predominant north-south transit service, there have been conversations around retiming select Marin Transit routes to the train instead of to the pulse. So, I mean, I would encourage you to reach out to Marin Transit staff.
I just have a comment on hiring 13 additional people. How, is it appropriate to ask how you're doing in that process?
We're doing well. It's out. We have the announcements out there for some already. But something that we've really seen in the past year is when we put something out, we get a lot of great applicants. So things are going very well for us. We don't have any concerns about that. We did want to get started early because this is a huge jump for us. It doesn't sound like a lot when you say 6 trips here and 8 trips here. But at the end of the day, it's a 19% increase in service, which is a lot. And so we wanted to get those folks on board early, make sure they were trained, ready to go by the time that we started in April. So we will have some startup costs that are associated with this that MTC is helping us fund. And so, yeah, we're moving forward and things are going well so far.
Wish I was 40 years younger. Okay, seeing no more questions or comments. Thank you very much, Emily. Appreciate your time. Which takes us to item 7, that's now item 6, that's now 7, and that's the Healdsburg Extension update by Bill Gamblin. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Citizens Oversight Committee. Bill Gamblin, Chief Engineer with the district. Very happy to be here today to present an update on the Healdsburg project. And we'll bring our slides up. So our board took an action to approve a progressive design build contract, which gets us started on doing some design work for the Healdsburg extension. But before I get into progressive design build, we'll talk a little bit about the project. We are looking at a 9-mile extension that will go from the Windsor station up and through Healdsburg with a new station at the depot in Healdsburg. There's a lot of work to do there. The photo in the slide shows a couple of rails poking through the weeds, and that's kind of representative of the conditions of some of the territory up there. So big picture summary, we will be reconstructing 9 miles of track. We will have continuous pathways. Some of it will tie into the existing pathway in Healdsburg. New station, we'll have grade crossing improvements. We have bridge replacements and or rehabilitations. We will be installing a train control and signaling system. There's none there today. And then a communication system as well. Some interesting features that we'll encounter as part of the Healdsburg project. There is the existing roundabout that the city built a number of years ago. They reconstructed the track through it, so that's ready to go. We got a lot of the conduits in the ground and foundations for signal poles. So a lot of the infrastructure is there to tie into. We have a very old bridge over the Russian River that will likely be replaced. It's essentially at the end of its useful life. It's over 100 years old. And just another shot of the right-of-way of some of the repairs and work that we'll be dealing with. This is the Foss Creek washout that's just north of the downtown area. So I mentioned at the beginning, the board approved a progressive design build contract. California Public Contract Code was updated in 2024 to allow transit agencies to utilize progressive design build as a method of delivering projects. It's a contracting approach. In this method, SMART would hire the contractor to prepare the design and construct the project. The difference with progressive design build is you're getting the contractor on right at the beginning. So you're getting that constructability aspect into your design right from the start. The contractor does have an engineering team that's part of their team. That's their design build entity. In this, the owner has the ability to select the design build contractor on qualifications, experience, and price. So it's a qualitative evaluation. The initial contract in this is the phase one contract. So progressive design builds basically split into a phase one, phase two project. The phase one is the preliminary engineering. So we're starting basically just from concept, taking the engineering design up to approximately 65% level. And during that time, we're negotiating price for the phase two work with the contractor. So if we are able to get to a guaranteed maximum price, we would then amend the contract and move into the phase two work, which would be completing the design and constructing the project. Just a very high level schedule to give you a little flavor for timelines. We have the alignment phase that will be starting in October. Now that we've awarded the contract, that'll run essentially through the end of the year. This is when the SMART and the contractor really strategize on the project, get on the same page, identify risks that we need to focus on, critical path elements, schedule, things like that. That will roll into the preliminary engineering phase, which will take us, we'll have two submittals, a 35% submittal and a 65% submittal. And as I mentioned, during that time, we're negotiating this guaranteed maximum price for the work with the idea that we would move into the phase two contract, modify the original contract towards the end of 2026 for the phase two work. It's possible as we're doing phase one that we identify some early works packages, things that would help move the project along. So it might be anything from relocating utilities to ordering long lead items or maybe doing some early clearing of the right of way. Those could be individual packages that would basically be phase two work because it's essentially construction work that could be going during the phase one work. And then phase two, we'll have the final design work going on through the first part of 2027. Construction will overlap with that as packages and sections are ready to start construction. And that would take us up to about the fourth quarter in 2028, where we would do testing and commissioning with the goal right now of opening the system at the end of 2028. A little refresher on funding. We have a variety of funding in the project, a lot of state funding. The TIRCP, we were successful on 2 cycles in that. There's the 34.8 million and the 81 million. We have a little bit of federal appropriations in the amount of about 1.8 million combined with some SCTCA Measure M money in 2 million. We have a little bit of federal FRA money for the positive train control system in the amount of 28.1. That's that lower right puzzle piece. And then some bridge tolls, regional money from MTC in the amount of $40 million. And then more state funding in the SCC, which is the Solutions for Congested Corridor Program and the Local Partnership Program. That's it for my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Kevin?
Thank you very much for the presentation. And I'm really excited about SMART's ability to expand. It's wonderful news. Do you have any concerns about, given the political nature, both at the federal government and state government, that any of those funds will be withdrawn or impacted?
We feel pretty good about all of our funding. We are still working to execute a grant with the Federal Railroad Administration for that PTC funding, but we meet with them monthly, so we're optimistic that's going to come through.
Eddie, did you have a comment on that? Go ahead,
Okay,
Jason.
so when I saw that you have a federal appropriation of $3.8 million, will there be additional funding from the feds that you may be expecting to help, like build this project, or is your agency subject to delays as well, given the uncertain situation right now in the federal government?
Yeah, so good question. In that puzzle piece slide, we had lumped two funding sources together to get to the 3.8. So the appropriations is 1.8 million. We do have that money. We are spending some of that money now. And then the other federal piece is the Federal Railroad Administration money for the positive train control system, 28 million in that, and that's the grant that we're still working to get executed. So there is that risk out there, but we're working through it.
I have a question. It's an engineering question. I'm just recently was made aware that you had to move a section of the creek up around Russian River in order to not flood the tracks. And we have to do that at Foss Creek. Are you planning on doing that at Foss Creek, something similar?
Well, so that picture with the Foss Creek, that washout of the track, that's just Foss Creek over the years is just eroded into the bank. There's been no maintenance done up there or any preventative measures. So we'll restore that, probably build a retaining wall along there to secure the railroad. But we try and avoid moving creeks because from a regulatory permit perspective, that's a heavy lift.
Thank you. Sandy?
Yeah.
And then Tom?
I'm still confused as to where you're going to end in Healdsburg. I mean, the station's going to be, as we now know, at this current station, but then you're going to go across the roundabout, and how far up?
Lytton Springs.
Our current limits are Lytton Springs Road at the north end of Healdsburg.
Okay.
Tom?
So the Windsor station's open now. Do you have an idea of how many more riders were increased by having Windsor? And is there a projection for what Healdsburg will do?
Yeah, so we're seeing about an additional 600 to 700 riders a day based on what we call the Windsor effect. So it's been really, really good. Windsor's kind of changed the dynamics. Santa Rosa downtown has now become the #1 station. So it's just been interesting of how travel patterns have changed a little bit. The 2006 EIR called for about 104,000, maybe 105,000 riders out of Healdsburg. I think it's going to be very interesting to see, overall what it is. But Windsor's done very good, and we anticipate that, Healdsburg could potentially exceed expectations.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
the bridge that has to get replaced, is that the same contractor that's doing all the work? Or is that a different contractor?
Yeah, so we have one contract to do all of the work, the track work, the train control work, the bridges, everything. We've got about 10 bridges of various sizes on the project. The most notable is the bridge over the Russian River. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm a little curious how you're going to put pedestrian bike or pathway across the bridge. Like, is the bridge going to get significantly larger?
So conceptually, what we're thinking right now, we use a lot of those small steel, I should say, off-site fabricated bridges for our pedestrian crossings. We use them throughout the alignment. We're kind of envisioning putting those on the edge of a railroad bridge. So it'd be technically a separated bridge structure, but all on the same support, on the same foundation. But at this point, it's just concept.
Right, but excellent. I knew it would be a good answer. Anthony?
Okay, so another follow-up regarding, your upcoming extension. Will there be any room for, bus stops, or will Sonoma County Transit provide the bus stops for the upcoming Healdsburg extension? Because for the Windsor one, Sonoma County Transit already has a bus stop right next to the train station, but I do not know, given how Healdsburg is rather compact and it's rather interesting that most of their services run along Healdsburg Avenue on the 60 and the 67. Will there be room for SMART and Sonoma County Transit to build a proper transit hub next to the train station once it is constructed?
Yeah, at this time, we don't have any plans to build any additional bus pullouts or bus stops. I believe there is service at the old depot site there, that intermodal site today, so that would remain. Although I do think there's some challenges with getting larger buses into that location.
Problems to be determined. Thank you very much, Mr. Gamblin. Excellent. Which moves us along to here we could switch that. Smart Pathways Update. Zoe.
Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry.
public comment.
Oh, sorry. Do I have any public comment in the room or online regarding Mr. Gamblin's presentation? Seeing none, thank you, Samantha. We'll move on to Zoe.
How's that? Okay. Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Zoe Unruh. I'm a senior planner here at SMART, and I'll be providing an update on our pathway. So just to start with a quick overview, SMART's environmentally cleared pathway project will be a little over 70 miles at build out. This 70-mile plus segment will serve as the southern segment or southern portion of the Great Redwood Trail. To date, 39 miles have been completed of mostly Class 1 multi-use path. We also have 11 miles funded for construction in Novato, Santa Rosa, and between Windsor and Healdsburg. That leaves around another 20 miles planned and in design that are being positioned for grants for construction funding. So together, when you look at what's been completed and what's funded, we're about at 71%. We've been busy with a lot of pathway construction. Just over 9 miles have been completed and recently opened. I apologize for the size of this map, but if you bear with me, I will try to take you along the alignment here. Right at the top, we have the segment of pathway between Airport Boulevard and Windsor River Road that was completed as part of the Windsor extension. We most recently opened pathway in Petaluma, connecting Petaluma and Pengrove, and as well as pathway between Rohnert Park and Santa Rosa, connecting Golf Course Drive to Bellevue Avenue. And then back in January of this year, we opened a segment connecting McGinnis Parkway to Smith Ranch Road in San Rafael. And those segments are highlighted in red and identified with those arrows. As you can see, the map is getting further populated. Those green dotted lines there indicate the segments that have funding on them. Let's start at the south. That arrow down at the bottom is pointing to our Hannah Ranch Road to Vintage Way South segment in Novato. This segment will connect to the recently completed Vintage Oaks pathway behind the Vintage Oaks Shopping Center that was completed by the city of Novato. We also have the Joe Rodota Trail to 3rd Street segment in Santa Rosa that is funded for construction. We have the Guerneville Road to Airport Boulevard segment that will connect from our Santa Rosa North Station up to our Sonoma County Airport Station. That's that long green dotted line there. Above that, we have Windsor River Road to Foss Creek Path. That is going to be completed as part of the Healdsburg extension that Bill was presenting on, as well as the Chiquita Road to Lytton Springs portion of the Healdsburg Path, where the Foss Creek Path ends at its northern terminus currently. And then for our segments that are planned or in design, we have the Smith Ranch Road to Main Gate Road segment connecting San Rafael to Novato. We also have the State Access Road to Frosty Lane segment in Novato that connects right from the Hamilton Station up to Frosty Lane in the Belmarin Keys area. Vintage Way North to Novato Creek, that would be on the north side of the creek. That connects that northern portion of the Vintage Oaks pathway up by Sutter Health. As well as our Grant Avenue to Rush Creek Place segment in Novato. That's at Novato Downtown Station, connecting up to our San Marin Station. We also have the Main Street to East Railroad Avenue segment that connects Pengrove to Rohnert Park. A very small segment that connects Santa Rosa Downtown to 6th Street. And then lastly, our remaining segment right up at the top of the map there in gray dotted lines connects Lytton Springs Road to 1st Street in Cloverdale. So those are those 20 miles I referenced that are planned and in design. And these segments are considered unfunded at this time, but we're constantly pursuing grant funding opportunities that best align with these projects. So in addition to SMART's environmentally cleared project, SMART, as outlined in our strategic plan, is also looking at the feasibility and the potential to plan for future segments of the pathway that were not originally environmentally cleared under the SMART project. This includes the Puerto Suelo Hill pathway segment. This pathway was studied with a feasibility study in 2022. At that time, 3 alignments were evaluated. And just this March, SMART awarded a contract for the design and environmental clearance and permitting for the Puerto Suelo pathway. And here is a rendering of a potential pathway alignment for that segment. I'm just going to catch up to my notes if you don't mind. So as this map indicates, and I apologize, you saw some of those segments that we recently completed in red. Now we've switched over to green. But what you can see here is that completing the pathway really unlocks the potential and the connectivity that the pathway provides. So with these newly completed segments, our longest segment of fully separated Class 1 is between East Railroad Avenue and Joe Rodota Trail, connecting Rohnert Park and Santa Rosa. That's 8.8 miles of pathway. And our longest section of pathway that's open, consisting of off-road and on-road components that would include Class 1 off-road, as well as Class 2 and Class 3 on-road facilities, is between Main Street and Pengrove and Rush Creek Place in Novato for 15.6 miles. So completing these pathways is we're celebrating, and I know Eddie mentioned that we're having these events, but we're really excited to be inviting the community out to come and experience these new pathways that were completed. Again, the events are on October 4th and October 5th. There's more information on our pathway website, or actually on our website, Step Pedal Glide, and you can RSVP there, and we hope to see you. So I'd like to just pivot a little bit to talk about our pathway and rail. We really see these two things as being part of a system. They are complementary components to one another. We know that the pathway provides first last mile connection to the train. And back in 2023, we did some pathway intercept surveys, and 54% of pathway users reported regularly using the train and the path to complete their trips. And this is backed up with what we're seeing as far as usage of the train. 13% of SMART train passengers bring bikes on board. We know many of those people are connecting via the pathway. In FY25, we carried over 1.1 million rail passengers, and that was a 33% increase over the prior year. And we also saw a great increase in the bikes carried on board. So with that ridership, we know a lot of people are also traveling in a multimodal way. So this little graph here, you can kind of see our trend line there on bikes on board the train over the fiscal years. So that was a record year for us in many ways. And then we're seeing that as well on the pathway. In fiscal year F25, we had a 39% increase over the prior fiscal year in terms of our pathway utilization. And in the light green here depicts our bicyclist use, and our pedestrian use is in this darker color. We count pathway usage with static counters that are located along the pathway. We have 14 counters currently on our pathway. And as we look at these pathway counts, what we're seeing is an overall growth, right? You saw that in the fiscal year growth. But this chart just really kind of drills down into the fact that we're seeing growth across pathway segments, not just from those new segments that we've opened, but also on our existing segments. So if you'll look at this baseline here, that was our daily average baseline in 2024. And now you can see in 2025, those existing segments also saw growth in usership. And we also had that added bonus of new pathway segments inviting people onto the pathway, adding those users up. This is a quick look at August to September. It's not a full month of data, but it's just kind of what we have to draw on here with these newly open segments. Right now, you see the counter locations from south going to north, and you can see the daily average counts by counter site. In light gray, that's our 2024 daily average, and in 2020, and in the darker green color, you see the 2025 daily average. Those light green bars are counters on our new pathway segments for context. So you can see where those segments fall in line within our overall system. What's interesting is that our largest year-over-year gains are occurring on those segments connected to newly completed pathway. So if you build it, yes, they will come. And we're certainly seeing an uptick on that use. I think Santa Rosa at Bellevue is a particularly great example of what happens when you connect that pathway up and close a gap. You really unlock that potential. You're seeing that also in Rohnert Park and also at the Petaluma counter in Payran, because we've now connected that gap that existed at South Point. So we're seeing a lot of embracing of the pathway, which is really exciting for us. Eddie touched on this, but our pathway counts in August, we had 129,000, a little over 129,000 pathway counts in August. We're also doing other things to improve the pathway, and that includes really making it easier to use and having better information available on the pathway. So we've done updates to our pathway website. We've updated our interactive pathway map. But a big project we recently completed was the installation of over 400 pathway signs along our pathway, including portions of the pathway that are not within SMART's right of way. So these are some examples of the wayfinding signs, and we hope you guys are seeing them out there. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and thank you so much for your time.
Go ahead, Kevin, and then Emma.
Zoe, thanks again for the presentation. This is either a question for you or Eddie. As the number of our riders grow and more paths are constructed, more riders, and more people are bringing their bikes on the trains, do you foresee that as a conflict or a problem with accommodating riders and bikes at the same time?
Yes.
And
It's
then
something that,
what
you
is the
know,
game
it's
plan?
a good problem to have, right? It's a good problem to have, but it's a problem nonetheless. Something we're doing right now, and I'm going to get up this week to take a look at it, but we are going to do a test where we're going to remove the bar cart and look at how we could store more bikes or more seats in that area. So our maintenance folks pulled that out a couple of weeks ago or last week. And I'm going to get up and take a look at that, and we're going to see. So we are actively looking at ways that we can make sure that we have more room on the trains and make sure that we accommodate as many people as we want. We did recently update our guidelines to limit bikes to 80 inches. That's obviously if we have room, people can get on, but we really have to look at the size of bikes, making sure that, we're catering to the vast majority of people and making sure we have plenty of room to get everybody on. So yeah, it's absolutely something that's on our mind, but it's also something we're being proactive and working on solving the problem before it becomes a huge problem.
Emma?
Hi, I also represent the downtown Pen Grove merchants. They love the bike path. I mean, the amount of people that are coming even before it was officially open was huge. I mean, we just see so many bicyclists now in Pen Grove that are coming in the afternoons, but definitely on the weekends flooding in. Conversely, at the same time that you have like positive people riding the bikes, we also notice like a rapid increase in graffiti because now the bike path has made those sides of the buildings available. And it's a different demographic that's there with their spray cans, late at night. I'm just wondering, because we're trying to address this constantly in Pen Grove. So we've gone to our supervisor, we've talked about having a community task force to help address the graffiti, working with Supervisor Rabbit to see if we can address that. We just noticed that right where the bike path is in downtown Pen Grove, there's an amazing storage facility on one side, right by the bike path, which is a great blank wall for people to, graffiti on. And then, so the question is there any thought to how you're going to address that going forward? Because that's not the presentation that you want people on the train to see of Pen Grove. We don't want it to look like inner city squalor. We want it to look like a place they want to stop and visit.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's not an easy problem to solve, right? There's always challenges there, but I think the easiest way to address it is with having eyeballs in the area. And so we do have our code enforcement officers. They can be out, and be visible, be in that area. And so we don't have the magic bullet. Obviously, we want to prevent it. We want to get it cleaned up, those types of things. That's not the image that we want. But it is a tough one to solve. But I think the best thing we can do is just having local enforcement in the area and people watching the area as best we can.
So that brings up the second point. There's not a lot of illumination on that particular bike path. So as winter comes and it gets darker, there's a concern for safety. So some of the businesses are putting exterior security cameras. And we have a great ongoing relationship with the local CHP captain, who's very happy to address any concerns and has made it clear, like, we could send security footage and they would address the graffiti or violence on the bike path.
Sure.
But is that part of a conversation that SMART wants to have as well with us?
Lighting could be a challenge. We don't have any lighting on our pathways, in the system. And obviously that's something we just haven't done to this point. There's a whole lot of challenges that are associated with that, of running the power and things that would be needed to do it. Never say never. This is something that we heard a lot about during our strategic plan, of things that people wanted us to look into and that it wanted us to consider in the future. It's not actively in our plan, but we did identify it in the strategic plan as something to look at in the future.
Anthony?
Okay, so first of all, congratulations on the further expansion of the bike paths. And I'm very happy to see that the bike paths are heavily utilized by recreational cyclists and walkers. Now, the next thing I really want to see for there would be, can there be areas for people to literally just relax, like additional benches along the way at areas where there may be no place to rest, so that people can sit down while, taking a long walk or bike along the pathway? And number two, will there be opportunities to put in free bike, a free bike repair or free bike, vulcanizing shower, that's what we call it. It's like, you can refill your bike, like a wheel with air in case it gets flat along the way. Because truthfully, for bike paths to be really that successful means you're gonna need to have more than just a pathway to walk along. You also need the additional infrastructure to make that pathway even more, accessible and enjoyable for everybody.
So I'll tackle your first point about benches. We did include in our strategic plan, as Eddie kind of alluded to, with regard to lighting, the potential to examine opportunities for pathway enhancements. One of our constraints is, of course, space. And a Class 1 facility requires a minimum of 8 feet, as well as shoulder capacity. And we're building most of this within our right-of-way. So we do have to look at where space provides those opportunities for additional enhancements. And then your second point about fix-it stations, we worked with the city of Petaluma, and they have installed a fix-it station at our downtown Petaluma station. It is something that we're monitoring and we'll continue to look at if this is, something that's well utilized. But we do have one, and we are looking to work with the city of Petaluma to put another one in. That, of course, is at a specific location, but it's giving us an opportunity to look at this potential enhancement.
It'll be great if, like a fix-it stations are placed next to, smart stations at least, or we can have it like every 2 miles or so that, if anything happens, they don't have to bike all the way back to a station just to fix their bike. So, like, you can have them maybe next to a bench and then there's a fix-it station so that, they don't need to call in an emergency and say, hey, I have a flat bike, can you help me out? So it's like, have it, like at regular intervals so that bicyclists who need to fix their bikes can do so without having to inconvenience anybody.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions, Jeff?
Yeah, let's see here. I guess my question is not entirely about the pathway, but it's certainly a part of it. At least I think something that I've noticed at the downtown Novato station is that I guess it's a little tricky, the delineation between like that class 1 pathway and the parking lot, specifically because it's not paved. So, there's gravel, there's dirt, and, leaves and other like natural debris that are kind of making their way onto the pathway. And so I'm just trying to think about like whether paving at the Novato down station, like whether that's like something that's going to be considered at some point, and kind of just like whether it's like a little concrete barrier of some sort, just something to, like I said, like increase that delineation between the pathway and parking lot.
I believe that pathway is, that parking lot is owned and operated by the city of Novato. So I don't know that we can speak to the paving of it, but that's an interesting point. Thank you.
Emma, did you have another comment? All right. Seeing no more other comments, we're very excited for the completion of these projects. So thank you very much, Zoe.
Chair, would we like to take public comment?
Oh, I'll get it one of these days. In the room, do we have any public comment? And online, do we have any public comment? And seeing none, I guess we can move to the next item, which is the next meeting of the Citizens Oversight Committee, December 10th, right here where we are. And if there's no other comments or concerns, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Anybody?
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you. A second. Okay, let's go. Bye. All right. Thank you very much, staff, everybody.